Here's a quick tutorial just to make sure that you know where the files are for the BACS 300 Access projects. So log on to my MIS lab, then I'm just going to go to the BACS 300 course. This will look similar to what you see other than these things that are hidden from you. So if we're going to go to the Office 2010 My IT Lab assignments, technically we are in My IT Lab, but I'm just going to refer to everything as a My MIS Lab assignment. So click on that, and then you will see Office 2010 assignments. So click there, and when this comes up, you will see the assignments come in right here. So we have the first Access 1 Grader project, so click on that. So click on the name, notice the hand. And then you get another window, and you can download the files. It says, before you begin, read through the instructions below. So you have these instructions, and then it just tells you how to download this. So click download files. You should see two files. The doc file has the instructions, so I prefer to download these separately rather than using the zip files. So I'll download the document file first. So I'm going to save it somewhere where I can find it, so I'll put it in my downloads folder. And then I will do the same thing with Access. Make sure that you save these instead of just open them up. This way they won't be in read-only format, and you will be much less likely to run into problems trying to save your file later. So save this to your hard drive, or if you're in the lab, save it onto a flash drive, but please make sure you back up your files. Okay, now you have your files downloaded, and we will go open them. So I'm going to open my File Explorer and go to Downloads, and then I will see my two files. Double click on the instructions to open them up, and you can see the instruction file just tells you in order all the steps that you need to do and how many points each of these steps is worth. Now let's go and open the Access file. You can just double click on it and it will open it up in Access. Make sure that you enable the content so that you can work with the file. And then you notice that that notice has gone away. If you want to open an object, these are called Access objects, and this is the navigation pane. These are tabs, and these big things here are referred to as ribbons, and each of these groups is referred to as a group. Now if we look at let's say this author, and I double click it, I open it, this table in Datasheet view. You can see that this is a table. It's in the table section. Queries use this type of icon. Forms use an icon that looks like a form, and reports have an icon that looks like, well, a hard copy of a report. If you want to go to Design View, you can just click on View, and then you click on the little arrow, and you will see that you have two possible views. When you are in Datasheet view, that's where you can enter data. The only other option is Design View, so instead of having to click on the menu and select Design View, you can just click there. I'm going to close my table and show you the same thing with a query. So I can double click the query, and that runs the query, and you see the query in Datasheet view. And notice there are three options: Datasheet view, SQL view, and Design view. So Access tries to guess which view that you would want to go to next. So since you're probably going to go to Design view, click Design view, and then if you can't see all of the tables and their relationships, you can grab and drag down. And then you can also resize these, just like you can resize a window. So you can move them around and resize them, and you can even reorder them if you would like to. Notice the one-to-many relationship here, and at the one side, the publisher side, means that one publisher can participate with many books, and we will see the primary key of publisher, publisher ID or pub ID, is posted as a foreign key in the books table, which means that the pub ID, this publisher, could have many books. You can see that we also have a relationship between author and books. Author ID is the primary key that's linked to the books table, so this is the one side. And author code is the foreign key. Even though it has a different name, it can be the same field or represent the same data. It has to have the exact same data properties and data type. Now, you don't see the one-to-many because they did not enforce referential integrity. So if we double-click on the relationship, you have to be really good aim. So if I go over here, notice I click to select it and then double-click, and you will see the left table, publishers, publisher ID, and then that's connected to the right table, books, and to pub ID also. And this is our basic inner join. We'll talk about outer joins perhaps later in the semester, or perhaps not. And you will only get records where these two tables have the pub ID in common. So if we double click here, so I'll select and then double click, and we see that the author table has author ID and the books table is author code, and that's how these two fields are joined. Now this doesn't have the one-to-many relationship, most likely because of how author code is set up in the books table. If we look at this relationship between the author and the books tables, we notice that the author ID is the primary key that's connected to author code. Even though it's not the same name, it is the same field, and it has the same data type and data properties, or field type and field properties, so that it can be connected. But notice that it does not have the one or the many here. And if we go and look at the relationships, it should have that. So if we look at the database tools, click on the database tools tab, click relationships, and you notice, I'll just move these to make them easier to read, you can see that it has publishers to books, and if we look at author and books, it is indeed a one-to-many relationship. I have no idea why that's not showing up as a one-to-many relationship. What I'll do is I'll show you a quick way how we can recreate this query, so you'll get to see how to create a query, and you'll see that when I recreate the query, this will be in fact a one-to-many relationship. So I just go to create. I'm going to create a query from design because I know exactly what my query is going to look like. So I have a new query and I want all three tables, so I can just double click each one, or I can single click and click add, close when I'm done, and notice I have the one-to-many relationship between author and books, as it should be. Now, one thing to show you why that shows up as a one-to-many relationship, let's open up the author table in design view. So I'm going to right click, open in design, so design view. And if I look at author ID, the primary key, one thing about a primary key is it has to be required, and it is indexed, and it says yes, no duplicates. Because it's a primary key, it's indexed, and each one is unique, so that's why there are no duplicates. If I open the books table, right click, open in design view, and I look at author code, which you notice this is number, long integers, so they are both the same data type and they have the same field properties. Even though it's not required, it probably should be a required field, but they did not do that, so I won't mess with it. But notice, since it's a foreign key, it is indexed because you often search by foreign keys and primary keys, so that's why they are indexed. And it says duplicates okay because this is the many side of the relationship. This is why we post the primary key, which is on the one side of the relationship because it only occurs once in that table, and it becomes the foreign key in the related table because it can occur many times in that table, and this is why duplicates are okay. Let's return to the query that I started creating, and notice it's query 1 because there hasn't been anything created yet. Nothing has been saved. So you just call it query 1, just like it would be untitled document if you were in Microsoft Word. So we'll get back to query 1, and I took a screenshot of the other one using the snip tool. So we need title from the books table, and then we need last name and first name from the author table. So this is a multi-table query where we are going to find out the name of a book, the title of the book, the name of the author that wrote the book, last and first name, and we're going to find out who published the book. So we need all 3 tables. And you can link tables as long as there is a path between them. So we have a link from author to books. We have a link from books to publishers. So we can get information that connects authors and publishers. So the title from the books table. So I'm just going to go to title here. I can put title in one of 3 different ways. I'm going to double click, and it goes into the next available column. Then I'm going to do last name and first name from the author table. So I'll go click last name. Then I'm going to hold the shift key and down arrow so I can select both of these. And then I'm just going to click and drag to the first column where I want them to appear. Now I'm going to get rid of this first name one just to show you something. So I'm going to delete that. Then I'm going to get from publishers the publishers from, or pub name from publishers table. So I'm going to click pub name. And the reason we're getting the names rather than the ID numbers is because I don't know what ISBN belongs to what book, or what author ID belongs to what author, or what pub ID belongs to which publisher. So we're getting the more descriptive information. These IDs, or primary and foreign keys, are there to make the connections. So now we needed the first name. So I'm going to go back to author. Remember, I deleted it. Now I'm going to add it back in. I want to show you how you can just squeeze it in there. So I'm going to click and drag it, and it's going to go before the pub name, and it's going to kick that one out to the right. Now, once you put things in here, if you want them in a different order, and by the way, in a query, the order is very important, unlike a table where it doesn't matter what order it's in, because you generally sort things in a query. So first, we would sort by title, then by last name, then by first name, then by pub name. So the way things are grouped depends on which order they are in. Now, if I wanted to sort by last name of the author, see where it says sort? I can click there and then get my combo box, and I'll sort in ascending order. So now I'll run my query, and you can see I have the title, which is in no particular order, but the author's last name, those are in alphabetical order. And of course, if it was name, I would want to sort by last name and first name. So notice for Connolly, right, we have all of Connolly's books here, and then we have the publisher's name here. It looks like Connolly only publishes for one publishing house, and same thing with Rachel Kay, and Stephen King also publishes for Simon & Schuster. But notice that Luann Rice publishes for Bantam Books, and notice we have Anne Rice, who's someone different. That's why we have primary keys and why we can't use names as primary keys. All right, probably a lot more than you wanted to know, so I'm just going to shut up and let you do your work.